What's up, YouTube? We are back with another build video. Today's video is all about defense, and more specifically defense on the perimeter. This build has been able to carry me to so many victories, both in park and in rec. This build is able to lock down anybody on the perimeter and also dominate in steals. I don't know how many games now with this build I have gotten 10, 12, up to 15 steals in one game. It is absolutely insane what you're able to do with this build. Plus, it brings a lot else to the table as well. It's not just defense, and I don't want to give everything away, but you'll see. It can really kind of do a lot. So, looking at this build, name doesn't matter, I'm always Pedro Mclovin. This is a point guard build. Okay, and this specifically is more around speed versus strength. I went with speed for this build versus strength, and it has benefited me a ton. Okay, it doesn't matter what hand you use, what number you use. Jumping in here, let's look at the actual physical attributes. Okay, so the body settings are 6'7". It's not 6'9", which is what a lot of people use. 6'8". I went with 6'7", more for, again, the speed versus just size and strength. All right. This build is only at 180 pounds, but we'll get into why that's really beneficial. It has a 7'4" wingspan, which is huge for a point guard, and the body shape really doesn't matter. Okay. And you can see already the stats on the side. If you're glancing over, going like, whoa, 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 trust me, it's amazing. Okay. So let's get into the finishing to begin with. This build is not a finisher, but this build can finish. I know I've said that with other builds as well, but it really reigns true again here. I like builds that can do a lot. I want to have a build that can dribble and shoot and that's it. No finishing, no deep. Like, I don't like that. I like builds that can do everything. Is this build going to posterize people? Absolutely not, but that's not why I use this build. I have another build that I'll be bringing a video to you about a slasher who can dunk on everybody, but that's not this build. This build is really for locking down the perimeter. All right, so finishing, we have a close shot of 50. We have a driving layup of 70. We have a driving dunk of 80 and a standing dunk of 30. This is a fast break, easy dunk the ball, transition, even in half court, if you're able to cut in, you can catch the ball and dunk it. This build really is amazing. And along with this, you get 9 badge points for finishing, and you're able to unlock some pretty good ones, right? You're not going to be able to get any tier 3 because you got to have at least 14 badge points for that. So we're looking at, you want to be catching lobs, you want to have fearless finisher. If you want to even do back down punisher and drop stepper because you want to go against smaller guards, go for it. Giant Slayer, you can get on gold on this build. Again, this is not a finishing build, but this build can finish. All right, so jumping in here to shooting, this build can shoot. All right, this year so far we've learned a couple things about shooting. One, you don't need to have a 90, 92 3-pointer to be very consistent. 80 to 82 is kind of where I think the minimum should be. 85 on this build is extremely consistent. All right, I've had 40 plus point games very easy on this build, mainly shooting from 3. Very easy. Okay, so we have a 74 mid-range shot. This is very key to this build as well, and I'll get into that once we get into the badges. We have an 85 three-pointer. Absolutely insane for a lockdown build. And we also have a 75 free throw, and the reasons because I wanted to use this build in rec. Normally, you'll notice if I have a park build, something I want to use primarily in park, I have the free throw taken down to 60 or so, depending on where the three-point shot is at. But this particular build, I wanted to have a very consistent free throw. And what's a little shocking is a lot of times, even with the 75 free throw, when I'm running with randoms and rec, I'm the one taking the free throw on any kind of violation, right? It's kind of strange with the 75, but a lot of people aren't putting that up significantly. All right, 20 badge points. 20. Crazy, okay? So, looking at it, you can get your tier 3s if you want to get one of these. Blinders is pretty good this year. Limitless range for this kind of build would be awesome. Agent 3 if you really want to get a little cheesy. But I'm looking more here, right? Green Machine, catch and shoot, corner specialist, Tier 2 is really where I would emphasize the badge points on this type of build. Space Creator I like to use when I'm doing my career, because doing the step back shot is really nice. And just on Hall of Fame, you can fire threes all day and get a ton of badge points with that. So that's a really good one to use. And then over here, Mini Magician, I really like this on this build. You're able to do some fun stuff with this build. When it comes to Mini Magician, you have the speed. We'll get into looking at quick first step and things like that for this type of build, but you're able to get to the mid-range and really do pull-up shots and spin shots and kind of some fun stuff with this type of build. Even though it's not a shooting build, again, it can do some good shooting stuff. Obviously, Claymore, Guard Up, or badges amped. People like Slippery Off Ball for this type of build as well. You can, with this build, you shouldn't be running point. Someone else should be running point. We'll get into dribbling and playmaking and some benefits that you have with that still. But I like Slippery Off Ball if I play with the right people, because then I can get open a lot on the three. Hence why those 40-plus point games really kind of do. This isn't a ball-dominant type of build when it comes on the offense. So I wouldn't emphasize a lot of that. But if you want to sacrifice some shooting or maybe even finishing in general and put some more into playmaking, you can get a very good playmaking build out of this kind of foundation that I've created. Okay, so next we are going to jump into playmaking. Okay, we have a 72 pass accuracy, which I think is 72 right now is kind of like a sweet spot when it comes to pass accuracy for me. The ball gets fast enough, you're able to get some badges that you need for playmaking, but you're not spending too much on it to get to a point where it's not really going to be overly beneficial. I'm learning a lot when it comes to the pass accuracy. If you do have the extra points and you can put more into it to get faster passing and maybe even needle thread around a higher level, go for it. But 72 right now, I think, is a really good spot for somebody who's not the ball dominant guard. All right. Ball handle at a 75 may not seem like much, but you're able to hold your own when it comes to dribbling. You can do some dribble moves. You don't get ripped a lot when you have a 75. It's a really kind of good spot for, again, not a ball dominant, right? Then we have an 80 speed with ball. This was more, I was looking at where I could add some points in, and it helped me get a couple extra badge points, getting it up to 80. So that's why I went with an 80 speed with ball. Plus, it helped me get quick first step on silver, which I think is good enough for this type of build. Again, playing off ball, maybe a little bit if you want to bring the ball down sometimes with this build. But again, you shouldn't be the main ball handler and passer with this build, but you can hold your own if you need to be. All right. So some really good badges with this. You can get one of the tier 3 badges. I don't really care about these badges for this type of build. Again, not a ball dominant build, but if you want to, like, Unpluckable's pretty good. If you are trying to do some crazy stuff, Handle for Days, Clamp Breaker, Killer Crown, any of those are fine. But again, down here, we got Bailout, which I think is very beneficial to any build if you can get it. Quick First Step on Silver. Vice Grip, which is really good for when you're trying to rip the ball. Because if you get the ball, you take it, you knock the ball out, and you grab it, you're going to hold on to it. So Vice Grip for a defensive build is extremely important. All right. Also, Needle Threader, Dimer. You have some rebounding, which we'll get to. So maybe Break Starter if you really want to go crazy. Yeah, really. I mean, Dimer, Needle Threader, Quick First Step, Vice Grip, Bailout. Those are kind of the main badges for this type of build that I would take a look at. But with 17 badge points, you have the capability of kind of testing out some stuff, right? Okay, so defense and rebounding should be the bread and butter, right? Again, this is a perimeter lockdown build. This build isn't meant to run into the paint and help guard a power forward or center. You're not going to be doing that, and you shouldn't be snagging a ton of boards. But as you see, once we get into the attributes here, you can hold your own in a lot of cases, okay? So, interior defense is a 70, right? Still good enough, right? If you get against a small forward, even a power forward, you can kind of hold your own a little bit. Perimeter defense is a 97. This perimeter defense at a 97 is all you need to be at. 97 is money, all right? This particular build has a 99 steal. Obviously, as high as you can go. And we'll talk about why this is so beneficial for this type of build. But You can get away with lowering down your steal, let's say to a 95 because you want to get gold glove instead of Hall of Fame, just because it's tier 3. But I promise you the Hall of Fame is worth it. So you could take this down and you could put it elsewhere if you want to put in dribbling or even finishing or whatnot, because those badge points are very expensive once you get past 92, 93 on steal. But 99 steal is very, very, very beneficial. Okay. And then we get into the block. We have an 80 block. So you're able to block shots with this build, especially chase down, which is really nice. Offensive rebound is only at a 30, but that's because where it has to be based on the rebounding. And defensive rebound, you actually are at a 75. The reason that this is so high was to get up to 25 badge points. But I've actually found a lot of benefit to having this. I grab a lot more rebounds than I thought I would when I need to, especially in park. If I'm in park, I get a ton of rebounds just because I know where to get to, and I'm able to put myself in a position to be successful when it comes to. So, 75 rebound for the badge points, but there's actually a lot more benefit than I thought there would be for this type of build. At 6'7", 7'4" wingspan, you're able to grab some boards. You're not going to match up against a center or power forward with 90 plus rebounding, but if it's you and another guard, you're getting the ball. Okay, so let's look at the actual badges you can get. Now, I'm going to come over here first because this is it, okay? Right here is where everything is made, okay? Now, 25 badge points, you're able to get up to 29 with the +4, 30 once you get up to, you go through the season, right? So I put all my extra badge points here. And the reason is because I think after a couple seasons, if they're very consistent with what they did last year to this year, you're going to be able to get this up higher, 31, 32, 33, and higher up, and you're going to be able to unlock more. For this particular build, I focused on glove to start with. Glove was kind of specified as an OP badge, and I was like, nah, I doubt it. I bet it's probably pretty good, but it is an OP badge. It is absolutely insane. The main reason I get steals is based off of this, and it is crazy. It is mind-boggling what you were able to do with this build when it comes to glove, especially if you get matched up at the 2 or the 3. Those ball handling and pass accuracy for those types of builds are not where the point guard is going to be. Sometimes you get a small forward that wants to be a point forward, but you still, it doesn't matter. You can rip people very easily, especially at the beginning of the game, like how we still are. There's not a lot of people who've progressed very far, but I've matched up against some high-level individuals, and I've looked at their badges after the game, and they had the badges, they had the attributes, and I still ripped them. It is a lot about positioning, and a lot of my rips actually come off of somebody swinging, trying to get around. I just bounce over and blitz them real quick and grab the ball, but it's incredible. The other badge on here that I really have liked is clamps. I bump people so much. Now, my strength on this build, we'll get to, is not super high, but it is good enough to get clamps to activate and be very, very beneficial. Now, I'm almost to the point where I have forward glove, and I have not put anything in interceptor, and I don't think I will. I get a lot of steals off interceptions, and I don't have it on at all. So I may put it on bronze or silver to test it out and kind of see where it is, but I'm going to put everything I have towards getting Challenger towards Hall of Fame on this. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to see what happens. And right now I think I'm sitting at a 95 or 96 overall on this build, on the one that I use right now. And it is a lot of fun to use, specifically when it comes to defense. Now, looking over here, I've done Menace. I've done Workhorse because you knock the ball away a lot. Pick Dodger, I think, is very important. I've also messed with off-ball Pest a little bit, kind of testing some stuff out to see what you're able to do by just holding on to people. And I've done Chase Down. I've even tried out Anchor and Rebound Chaser. No difference in play, right? But this build with 25 getting up to 29 and then eventually 30 once you hit that 39 season level, then you're going to be able to experiment a little bit more, and it's going to be more capability of doing some different stuff with this build. But the main things are bump people on the perimeter, get steals, interceptions, and really contest shots. That's what it all comes down to. and it is extremely beneficial. And the thing that you see a lot when it comes to these other builds, like small forwards, right? The 6'7", 6'8" small forwards that are the lockdowns, they can't do some of the other stuff this build can do. Shooting, dribbling, and even some of the finishing. It's absolutely amazing. But before we get past that, let's jump in and look at the physicals, because, again, this is another area that these bigger lockdowns can't quite do, right? So 86 speed, 84 acceleration, that's very big for interceptions. And also when it comes to some of the dribbling. Strength is only at a 61. Okay, I'm going to say only at a 61, but it is at a 61. And for a lot of the perimeter stuff, I bump people left and right. You don't need an 80 plus strength to be able to be a good defender, as long as you have the capability of putting yourself in the right position. Vertical is only at a 60. Again, I say only, but for somebody who's not finishing a bunch or really trying to be a super rebounder, vertical is not the most important. And then stamina, I have it at a 91. Normally I have it at a 90, but I thought 75 free throw was enough. So being a defender, being around the court, running up and down, I wanted to make sure that I had just a slightly bit more of the stamina to help out with that. So this is the build. This is the lockdown build for perimeter. The stats are amazing. Not a finishing build, but it can finish. It's not a shooting build, but it can shoot the lights out. Okay? It is not a dribbler, but it can dribble. You can run point on this build if you have to. I've done it many times. Gotten, 10 to 15 assists a game because it's got the stats it needs to have to be effective. The defense, this is where it is. You will lock down everybody on the perimeter. Every single person you go against, you can lock them down if you put yourself in the right positions. And stealing, amazing. Fast enough, can jump enough, strong enough, and it has the stamina. What else do you need in a build? At 6'7", with a 7'4" wingspan, you're welcome, okay? So, taking a look at the takeovers, I've messed with different takeovers on the build. Extreme clamps, I think, is very important. You on this build, though, you have shooting and you have defense. That's it. Not quite high enough for anything else, but really for this build, what else do you need, right? So I did extreme clamps. I did limitless range. Those are the two most effective badges for this type of build anyways. You should be more of a spot-up build and not off the dribble build. And you're not a huge finisher, only with an 80 dunk. Although you can finish, you don't need the finishing badges, right? And you're not really going to be a shot creator with this type of build either, with the lower mid-range. But we talked about with a midi magician, you can still do some fun stuff in the mid-range. So that's the build, guys. Let's take a look at the comparisons. If we go take a look here, at a 6'7", 7'4" wingspan point guard, we are compared to Lonzo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, and Walt Frazier. This is a 3&D point, guys. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you can, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about the build. That's it for this one, guys. See you next time.